Hi, writers. Cami Osman here from the Narrative Project, and I wanted to make a little video for you and talk about something that I think is probably on all of our hearts and minds right now, and that is some grief and fear given some recent tragedies here in the United States, at least, and of course, all around the world. Hard things are happening, but we've had a couple of shootings, and I think that something that happens to all of us for different reasons is that we get seized up by fear. And when we're seized up by fear, our creativity sometimes flees the room, of course, can decrease and get stopped up. And then we wonder, why should we bother continuing? Why should we keep writing this memoir, this novel, this self-help book to help people lose weight? Whatever it is that you're working on, when big things in the world occur, we wonder, whether or not what we're doing in our writing spaces or coffee shops or, sitting in bed typing, does that even matter? And so I just wanted to jump on for a few minutes and share an experience that I had with you and my thoughts about why it still matters that you keep working on your book, that you keep writing, or if you're painting, that you keep painting. That you keep doing what your creativity calls for you to do. So several years ago, well, you see the medals here in the background of my office, and those are medals that I got for finishing races, not for winning them. So I run marathons and I love doing it. I've never been fast enough to qualify for the Boston Marathon, which is like the marathon of all marathons, that happens in the spring every year, and except for when we have a pandemic. Uh, but my ex-husband was a really, really good runner, and he qualified for Boston many times. We were there in Boston when the Boston bombing happened, and the boy, I didn't expect this. I actually feel a little teary talking about this, and I wasn't expecting that to arrive, but we'll just let it be. So we were there, and he was running the race, and so was a good friend of ours. When I was walking around the town with uh, the father of that friend, and all of a sudden we heard this big bang, and I thought a transformer blew or something. I mean, bombs were not on my mind at the time, and I'm sure this is still true. You could have an app on your phone that would track your runner, and so I knew that my ex-husband had just come over the finish line, and the man that I was with, he knew that his daughter had just finished the race. We heard a second explosion, and then we arrived in the family meeting area. So the runners would come through the finish line, and then they would go through this recovery area where they'd get food and water and um, those insulating blankets to keep them warm after their run. And then they would eventually make their way out into this meeting area where the letters of the alphabet were posted, and you could stand under the letter that represented the last name of your runner. So we were going over there. And as we arrived, then people started running, and I saw people running with blood on their faces. And then I started getting texts and tweets. I didn't still know what was happening, but the news was kicking in, and people were saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" My dad was texting me, "Are you okay?" And finally, someone said a bomb went off at the finish line, and we didn't know where our runners were. And so we waited and waited, and eventually, both of our runners did show up. And after much worry and concern, because we didn't know where the bomb had gone off, well, the city shut down, and entirely, I mean, instantly, the transportation out of the city shut down, everything shut down, and there were emergency vehicles coming from everywhere. And it was very, very confusing and scary because we didn't know if there would be more bombs that would go off and where they might happen or why they were happening. Um, we did get out of the city, and we were able to we had to walk, so my ex-husband who'd just run a marathon had to walk back to the closest lodging. We had some friends who were there. They had a lodging nearby, and we got out of the city and we got home. Um, and I can tell you that there was this overwhelming sense of fear everywhere and rage. And we were mad, like the marathon being kind of a sacred thing, to those who run it. And but the next year we went back. We went back to the marathon, and it was scary to go back. So those of you who don't know, the bombers, one of the bombers died in pursuit, and another bomber was caught. And it was considered an act of terrorism, and there was a lot of damage done. Both to people's life and limb and to the psychology of the people who were there. But we went back the next year, and I was afraid to go back. But the reason that I did is because I didn't want the marathon to be taken away from me. And a lot of people came back for that reason. And it was hard because there was this sense of being on edge all the time, not knowing if it would happen again or if some copycat would arrive to do it again. I'm telling you all of this because fear can stop us. It can stop us, and we should be cautious. And there is a reason to be fearful. It's not for no reason. That there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of hate in this world. But we as writers, especially those of us who are telling transformational stories, we can take the fear that we feel and we can funnel it into the stories and the books that we're writing, and we can write into something transformative. You cannot let the horrors in the world stop your voice, stop you from doing that which you love, make you believe that your story doesn't matter. Maybe your story isn't about social justice. Maybe your story is about grief. Maybe your story is funny. Maybe your story is about getting out of a pickle that most people wouldn't get in because your main character is a silly goof. It brings levity into the world. I don't know what your story is about, but I know that if you're being stopped up by fear, I don't want that for you. I don't want that for you. So I want you to take deep breaths. I want you to reach out for support. I want you to turn to the page, because it is the page that comforts you, that heals you, that teaches you, that guides you, that gives you wisdom, that allows you to speak into justice, because it is the page that does all of those things. So please, my friends, wherever you're at in terms of holding fear and grief and anger, let that be unleashed onto the page, and let the page hold you and guide you into a better place, let it transform you. Let it transform that fear into whatever it needs to be transformed into. I'm not going to say it needs to be transformed into courage. Your heart, your subconscious, in conjunction with that page, it knows. So my dears, continue on, pen to paper. And if we can support you, and we want to, please reach out to us. You can go over to thenarrativeproject.net, and we have a couple of spots left in the program. If you have a burning story you want to work on this year, we can help you get that book done. Please reach out and we will reach back to you.